Welcome to Advertising in America, the podcast where we meet entrepreneurs where they're at in their marketing and bust through their bottlenecks, breakpoints, and blind spots. Hosted by Wizards Ryan Shute and the Royal Torbay twins, where we put the fun in marketing fundamentals. Are you ready to dominate your marketplace? Are you ready for outrageous advertising? Do you want to become a household name? Brought to you by Wizard of Ads for Services. Visit us at wizardofads.services to book your free strategy session with Wizard Ryan Shute today.
On today's episode of Advertising in America, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla that Wizard of Ads partners love dragging around. While some people know it as traditional media, terrestrial media, old school media, or even boomer bangers, I prefer offline media. But many people continue to wonder if TV, radio, and billboards are a worthwhile investment of their marketing dollars. Mick, what say you?
There was a time when we only had 4 or 5 good media to choose from, and they all worked reasonably well. Radio, TV, print, outdoor. And if you didn't do any of those properly, well, there was always the yellow pages. Any of those could give you serious traction. So I remember when they started talking about digital advertising. It sounded like it was going to be a 5th major advertising medium that we'd all have to deal with. And with luck, it would know its place and only ask for its fair share of marketing dollars. Well, it didn't work out that way, did it? What is digital media? Can you even define it? I mean, is it pay-per-click? Is it GMB? Is it LSA? Is it social media? Is it YouTube? I mean, billboards are digital now. Is that new media, or is it just the same thing it's always been, only with tiny light bulbs instead of paint? There's no question the landscape has changed. You think the same number of people listen to the radio as they did when we were kids, or broadcast TV or cable TV like they did in the olden days? The TV people will tell you viewership is down. The radio reps will admit that not as many people are listening as they did in days gone by. I mean, yeah, you can still make progress using nothing but traditional media, and I suppose you can churn your own butter too if you really want that pioneer experience. But when it comes down to media choices, wake up and smell whatever Instagram smells like.
I believe that's teen spirit, Mick. Chris, what are your thoughts on this contentious subject?
I've been doing this job for nigh on 30 years, and since the day I started, the marketing media have written the same article every year. The 30-second TV ad is dead. First, it was people delaying on VHS, then it was PVRs, then it was Blockbuster, then Netflix, now the streamers and all the YouTube content. Every year, broadcast is dead. And it's the same for radio. Oh, people have CD players now. They can listen to their own music. Then it was iPods, then Spotify. No one listens to the radio, they say. Over and over again. And they are wrong every time. We know what the numbers are. TV ratings are measured by Nielsen, an independent company who tracks who is watching what and when. Nielsen will tell you how many people are watching and who they are, and they will be there. And until they're not there, the argument doesn't hold. And yes, everyone knows viewership and listenership is declining or diversifying. And yes, people will also Google your business or your product. So you better have a digital presence and it better work well. But don't confuse trends in viewership with the truth of who's where now. Regardless of what people may also be viewing and what they may be down from in terms of its peak, we do know how many people are watching things on traditional media. And for many advertisers, those numbers are still great. The question you need to ask is, how expensive is it to reach those people at a reasonable frequency? So they remember your brand. Compared to digital options, how much for how many sets of eyeballs? Because all these fancy computer options aren't cheap.
All I heard Chris say was, I'm really old. From teen spirit to highway to heaven. We'll be back right after this commercial break to take some cheap shots at you damn kids today. Stay tuned. Hey listeners, Wizard Ryan Shute here. Want a personalized strategy to instantly 4x the effectiveness of your marketing dollars? Schedule a free call with me at wizardofads.services. We'll chat about your goals and how you can quickly dominate your marketplace. I have limited availability though, so don't delay. Well, I guess you could delay it a bit, but not too much. That'd be like an over delay. So maybe just skip the delay part entirely and book your call just as soon as you're ready to start making money. You certainly don't want to delay that, right? And now, pitter patter. Ryan's Fun Facts. Fun fact, guys. While cable and broadcast TV have seen a decline in overall viewership in the past 15 years, did you know that only 10% of the country has eliminated cable television altogether? 10%, that's all, right?
So 10%, you're saying that this whole movement towards cable cutters, we're all supposed to be scared of, is only 10% of the people have actually cut their cable.
They've certainly taken on the OTT and the streaming, but they have also not cut their cable.
But they have not let go of the thing that they had before. Exactly.
Interestingly enough, young people have not even seen a cable. They don't know what the cable is, so they haven't cut it because it's never been there, right? So that's one of the weird things about this whole thing. Cable and broadcast still dominate total viewership by a landslide. And while adding additional streaming and OTT advertising solutions to augment overall viewership solutions, television can still totally dominantly capture in excess of 50% of any market in North America today.
Wow.
Right? Over 50%.
Well, and which is what I was saying, is if you look at what, like Nielsen will tell you how many people are still there. And while things may be fluid and they may be moving around, the truth is many of those markets remain. And until they are actually gone, until the numbers show that they have left, we can fearmonger all we want about, I think people are going to go. And to me, that's what's been happening for 35 years. That's why that article gets written every year, is people say, I think this is the year, then all the people are going to stop watching TV, and they never stop watching TV.
I think the mistake that we make is that we use things like nobody does this, nobody does that. It sounds like a little thing. It's actually a big thing, because when you say words like nobody and use these absolutes, that's actually the message you convey to that person, and then they get this twisted sense in their head that this used to be a thing that people did and now they don't. And the truth is, what we're talking about is trends. We're talking about, do more people do it or do fewer people do it? And if fewer people do it, well, that's fine. The only question is how many and how much does it cost? And the crazy part is that because of this perception that nobody listens to the radio, nobody watches TV anymore, what that has done to the cost of those commercials is that it becomes an even better value, because disproportionately advertising has been cut on those two media, disproportionate to the amount of viewers that they've lost. So since all media is purchased on supply and demand, if fewer people watch, but even fewer than that people advertise, the prices come down, and it actually becomes a better value to buy television today than it was 15 years ago.
Interesting perspective. I like that. And this all goes around this, but I don't watch TV anymore. I don't listen to the radio. Does anyone listen to the radio anymore? Billboards, I don't even know what any of them look like. They're instantly forgettable. Another fun fact. North America listens to radio on average 2 hours and 43 minutes a day. 2 hours, 43 minutes. So for everyone who says, I don't listen to the radio, think about that. Some of your target audience has to be listening to the radio more than 2 hours and 43 minutes a day, right?
Well, and again, that's the classic thing, too, is treating yourself like the focus group of one guy, which is you say, well, I never watch that channel, so I don't think we should advertise on that channel. Well, Nielsen will tell you the kind of person who is viewing that channel and what shows they watch and how frequently they watch it, et cetera, et cetera. And your viewership habits are not indicative of that. And just because you don't do it and your two friends who are just like you don't do it doesn't mean that that's the way the world has gone.
Right.
Nielsen will tell you the way the world has gone.
Absolutely.
Which is why when you're buying media, you absolutely have to be dispassionate about it. And that's why regular people like you and I actually can't do that. And that's because, and I cannot give you enough examples where a client says, but I listen to the sports talk station, and everyone I know listens to the sports talk station. How is it possible that you've gone and done a media buy that didn't include the sports talk station? Literally everyone in this town listens to the sports talk station. It's like, no, it's you and your buddies, friends, and everyone you know. I believe you. And the truth is, the sports talk station that you're talking about, I'm not talking about any particular media as an example, they're overpriced. They cost too much per listener per year to reach. And so that's why you need someone who has no vested interest in this is what I listen to every morning when I go to work. It's like, all I want to do is reach the most people for the least amount of money, and it doesn't matter what frickin' format they're listening to.
Absolutely. And we did see a shift in podcast and streaming services for audio of 6% cannibalization over COVID, but we've actually started to see that number creep back down again and radio go back to its more original percentages. Now, there's still a little bit of a shift.
Probably because of sports talk, because there was nothing to talk about. Like a year.
Everybody's still hunkered down in the...
I got to say, I would not have wanted to own a sports talk station for about a year there. It's like, what are we going to talk about? It's like, last year, the team was very good.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, your favorite favorite quarterback was golfing again today.
Yeah. Let's talk about the quarterback from 1975.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, no, listen, and it was a lot of people at home. They were listening. They were investing in themselves. We saw companies like Masterclass and training platforms all see a lift during that time as well. And we haven't seen a complete reversion of those percentages, but it's about half. And ultimately, it means that, radio is still as poignant and sticky and prominent as it ever has.
And people still have a role for it. I mean, like anyone else, I would love to go on a road trip and bring my own playlist, right? Whether I, in the old days, would bring a sleeve full of my favorite 10 CDs, and I would put them in the
Let's
CD
not
player.
pretend it was a sleeve. That was a crate. You literally had a milk crate.
It was an envelope.
Yes,
Or whether you do it on Spotify now and you create your own playlist, or you just call up a playlist of your favorite band and it'll play you the whatever. I'd love to do that, but I think people still like to expose themselves to new content, and so if you listen to Top 40, you're going to hear the new stuff, right? I love to listen to the artists that I know I like, but after a while, it's okay. So I wonder what artists I will also like in the future, and the only way I'm going to do that is to listen to Top 40 and find out what these kids today are listening to and discover somebody new, and so. As much as you may replace some of your listenership, and this has got to be true on viewership too, with stuff you're going to like, the comfort food of viewing and listening, you're also going to have times in your life where you go, let me hear what's on.
Well, there's also, I think it's easy to just sort of consider our viewing habits as our preferred viewing habits or listening habits. And that's not the only things we do. Right. We don't only listen to what I want to listen. I don't only listen in the car driving to work. I don't only listen to what I want to do. Sometimes I'm in the car with my wife and then I have to listen to her shitty station, right? So, and it's the same thing with TV, right? It's not only the things I like to watch. Sometimes you're in a home with more than one person and then you're forced to engage in a viewership habit that's not to your liking. You still watch the freaking commercials though, and that's why there's so many examples where people say, well, I don't listen to the radio, and it's like, well, I write the commercials for these people. Oh, I hate those commercials. Well, how do you hate them if you didn't actually hear them in the first place?
Well, this is why self-reporting, and this is why that focus group of one thing is
the whole thing
completely useless. Is that people say, oh, I not listen to radio. And it's like, well, do you listen to it when you're driving into the work everywhere? Okay, well, I listen to it that, but I never listen to it on. And Nielsen will tell you where people are actually listening. Because you ask people to self-report, they are going to give you the idealized version of themselves, not what they're actually doing.
If you talk to somebody, people who say they never listen to radio, I'm talking directly to you. I never listen to radio, people. Do you hate the Cars for Kids song? I win.
Yeah.
It's really a terrible.
But it's sticky, it's sticky. And I think this really kind of is important for us to think about what is the right question to ask. I know that earlier we talked about you saying, look, this is a moot point, that media, the channel that we're speaking about, is really just another way of deciding where are we going to listen to it. But what we're really talking about here is that the radio is the channel, right? It's the delivery vehicle, right?
Right.
So if it's the delivery vehicle, and you don't do the delivery vehicle right, if you don't have the right frequency, if you don't have the right message, that's why traditional media suffers more often than any other thing. We know, statistically speaking, that we've got tons and tons and tons of these people in our audience listening to it. We know that in every single city in North America today, that we can reach over 50% of the population in TV and radio. So the question isn't whether or not the channel is dead or works or doesn't work. The question really has to be,
are you going to be the one on that channel that stands out from all the others? Because there's always, the beauty of advertising is there's lots of mediocre advertising out there that just takes up time.
In fact, most of it is mediocre.
Most of it's mediocre. If you're the one who's got something interesting and sticky and memorable and compelling and that talks to you as a homeowner or as a guy who's about to buy a diamond ring for his fiance or whatever, you are going to stand out in that medium. Right. And that's the task.
Sure
Let's stop worrying about the medium and spend most of your time being the one within that medium who gets remembered.
Well, I love what Johnny Molson, one of our partners, says. We're media agnostic. We do not have a feeling about radio that is different than TV or a direct mailer or a plane towing a sign. What we care about is, what is the strategy? What's the message that we're going to do the job that we need to do? And do we have the frequency or the saliency, the impact value quotient that is going to punch hard enough?
And
we're paid based on results. Right. We're not paid by anything else except growing our clients' top line revenue. So if we make a recommendation that you should switch your dollars from dominating this medium to moving it over here, it's simply because we are self-incentivized to do the thing that will make us a little bit more money. We only make a little bit more money if our client makes a lot more money.
Absolutely.
So that's sort of the proof of that.
One of the reasons I agree with being media agnostic, the reason with that media agnosticism, there is still a love for television and radio and some of those traditional media, is that what we have also found is that there are certain things you can accomplish with certain media that you can't accomplish with others. You can get the name out there in pay-per-click or display advertising or all these other sort of Google My Business, all that kind of stuff. What you can't do is build a relationship. You can't convey the character of the person who runs this company and why that's the kind of company that I want to work with, or tell a long-term story where you're interested in this guy and you're watching the growth of the campaign and you're drawing people in it. Hey, it's these guys again. I love their ads. You don't get that in certain media. Where you get that is in those broadcast media where you have 60 seconds to do a radio commercial, 30 seconds to do a TV with images. And those things are not necessarily possible in other media that reach consumers, but they don't reach consumers in that way, in a storytelling context.
Now, having said all that, I think there is a thing that we do need to acknowledge, because there is one way that it has legitimately changed, and we can't pretend that this part hasn't happened. 20 years ago, you could build a campaign solely on one of those media.
Yeah.
You could just do radio and you'd be fine. Just do TV or print or the local newspaper. Today, because of the buying habits of the consumer, there is no option to not have a digital presence.
Absolutely.
You cannot just say, well, I'm going to opt out of pay-per-click. I'm going to opt out of that stuff. You have to opt in. Now, where you have a choice to make is how much of your media spend are you going to dedicate to that last-minute consumer who is at the place of being ready to buy but does not have a preferred brand.
Absolutely.
It's the same argument. It's exactly the same argument 20 years of the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
If you don't, and what I would say is that, I said this at the time, the Yellow Pages is the option for someone with no ideas. If you have no marketing plan, you can always get somebody at the last minute with the Yellow Pages.
Right.
Our goal is to actually win the hearts and minds of the consumer before they're at the place.
Well, and I would add on to that, because even more insidious about the Yellow Pages back in the day and about Google and other online solutions today is that our habits are to still go to those things at the last minute. Yeah. So I may have a tow truck company in mind. I'm going to call Jerry's Towing because I hear their ads all the time. My car just broke down. And I may not remember the phone number from the ads. And so I'm going to go to the Yellow Pages and look up Jerry's Towing. Or I'm going to, these days, it's like, you know what? Got to call that Jerry's Towing guy. What the heck was his number again? Jerry's Towing. Put it in, and then Google comes up. And so Google is still necessary. You better come up as soon as I'm looking for Jerry's Towing. So that presence has to be there. But you are in a much better position if I'm going to Google, and in the old days going to the Yellow Pages, knowing what I'm looking for. I am not devoid of a preference.
So while all the delivery vehicles have changed as technology evolves, the brain really still just has those 12 different ways that they perceive communication, right? We have 5 senses, but we have 12 ways that our brain perceives it. That's not changing, right? So as long as we're using these 12 languages as a litmus test, we can fit into any media channel that is necessary given the strategy that we're looking for. Is it great to go and solicit for leads on Facebook where people are looking to doom scroll and dopamine inject? Or is it better to go to an intent-based marketing? Strategically speaking, does it make more sense to step up to the roulette wheel of Casino Google and put your chips on a couple of numbers and hope for the best? Or is it better to have them know, like, and trust you before they show up? The fashionable delivery mechanism is going to change, but people aren't. It's just going to be paying attention to where we can have the greatest effect for the least amount of money.
And be aware of the fact that when you're discussing media, you're discussing how am I going to say it and how loudly am I going to say it.
Yeah.
And that's important, but it's not as important as what the heck am I going to say? What am I saying should be your first
That's the
concern.
biggest question.
And your second concern should be
Where
am I
do
gonna
I
say
do
it?
that?
Well,
If you're
yeah.
thinking of media first, you've got it backwards.
Right. Well, it's because the message is going to inform the media, right? You're going to say something different on a pay-per-click ad on Google than you would on Facebook, than you would on a radio ad, than you would on TV even.
Absolutely, because with Google, you're talking to a different mindset. You're talking to the person who's ready to buy. Mindset's very, very different. When you're advertising on television or on radio, you're talking to a person who's not in the buying mindset. You're trying to put them into the buying mindset. So what you would say, if you're Budweiser, what you're saying to a person watching a football game is something very, very different from somebody who's Googling beer.
Right. Right. Well, it's just one of these many questions that entrepreneurs constantly ask. They're saying, hey, what media should I use? It's the same mistake that they make with branding. They go, well, I want to rebrand my company. What truck wrap and logo should I get? Right? That's not branding your
You're
company.
talking about the supplier there, not the idea. What's
Exactly.
most important is the strategy and the idea.
Right. So the strategy dictates the story. The story dictates what the truck wrap will look like, because a truck wrap is a channel. It's not an actual brand. The logo is an iconic piece of the brand, as are the colors and fonts and everything else. But way more importantly is the words we're going to use to influence people to do the thing we want them to do, because we're doing something distinct or different. So fascinating little world that we're in. It's not binary. Right, and that's really what we need to recognize.
And here's the other thing that maybe is an interesting closer. I almost put this in my rant. I sort of thought of it after having written it, because it's something that's happened actually just kind of in the last year or so. So we've been talking about how for the last 35 years, people have been saying, that's it, people are turning away from these traditional media, and no one's going to watch broadcast TV because they're going to all watch HBO, and then, that wasn't the whatever. And it just continued to happen. It's interesting. Guess what's happened in the last year or so? Suddenly, there are 30-second ads on Netflix.
Yep.
There are 30-second ads on Amazon Prime. If I listen to my podcast, because no one listens to the radio anymore, what's in the middle of your podcast? 30-second radio ads right in the middle of your podcast. So this whole idea that you can't use these media anymore, maybe over-the-air channels, there's certainly fluidity, there's certainly evolution, but it is interesting that all of these new media are coming back to the same advertising within the new media.
Absolutely.
And that's weird. I will be interested to see whether, in fact, the prevalence of the TV 30, the prevalence of the Radio 60, and those sorts of things actually start to grow again, because they are now being used in the media that's supposedly killed them.
Turns out people like getting their content for free, alys have, probably always will.
Yeah.
Mick, you've always said that there is no such thing as new media, that TV show on Netflix is TV.
Well, to the consumer, we as advertising people know what OTT is. Would a consumer recognize that, well, that's a 30-second ad on a streaming service, whereas television is a 30-second ad
On a
in the
national
middle of
broadcaster.
Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Would the consumer say, oh, that's a very different thing and it's worth paying a lot more money for?
Absolutely.
I don't see it. It's a commercial in the thing I'm trying to watch, and it's okay.
And we're used to having commercials interrupt the things we're watching.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when we all switch to new media, somebody says, we could interrupt these things with commercials, and the streaming services say, and I could make money. Sure, I'll set that up.
Yeah, right? and young people who say, I love Netflix. I don't like paying for stuff. Can I have Netflix and watch and not pay for it? And Netflix is like, you betcha. and now young
We've
people
invented
are
a thing called a
commercials.
30-second TV commercial.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Boy, is this going to be exciting.
Good going, Gen Z.
Well, and this has been a standard business model for pretty much every SaaS product that we have seen that is customer forward. Facebook, Google, Netflix, Prime, Disney. All of these guys have been planning this all along. Jeff Bezos had no problem losing money for 20 years to get to this spot.
Yeah.
Right? Because now he's the second or first richest person in the world, depending on the day. And it's fascinating that we are very, very willing to do that.
Remember that saying, only half your marketing is working, you just don't know which half? Let's help you with that. Book a free strategy session with Wizard Ryan Shute today at wizardofads.services. Yes, that's a URL. Wizardofads.services. Now let's get back to the show.
So ultimately, what it comes down to is traditional media dead? I would argue that it is definitely not dead, that it is different, and that we have to pay attention to a multitude of different channels that work in concert with each other, that we're looking at what's called the cross-cumulative traffic of those channels, so that we are speaking to the people that we want to speak to and influence and persuade at 100%. The biggest challenge that our clients face when we come into it that we can solve very quickly comes down to that exact problem of spreading your marketing dollars too thin and getting it so watered down that they don't remember it. It doesn't get past this electrical memory and into the chemical memory where you can build something up. Now, you pair that in with an impactful message that makes people feel, now we've got something that's pretty darn powerful, really pretty potent. Digitizing in marketing is without a doubt going to be the future. That's not even a question. But that doesn't make digital marketers the authority by any stretch. They're very often channel salespeople.
And digital marketing, if you spend enough money, you can get your fair share. It's very expensive, but you can get it. Our clients are not interested in getting their fair share.
That's right.
They want to get way more than their fair
You have to get way more than your fair share if you ever hope to become a household name, not just name recognition or somebody that they pick from a rando list of on Google or wherever. And that means having this comprehensiveness of both online and offline marrying together and working together. There is efficiencies that we're starting to see on places like social media where we're able to push through frequency at a better rate. We're using different strategies to really lift up and get that same kind of viewership on your ads, but we also have to be conscientious of the ads that you're running. People have a different temperament when they're in that area where they want to be entertained and soak in some of that dopamine. We love, by the way, working with digital marketers, particularly those ones who are talented
and every one of our clients has a digital presence. Every single one.
Yep. The big things we're interested in working with are those that are morally sound, right? They're the guys, the girls out there who are doing really, really talented, great work, but they're also not trying to take advantage of the situation due to the lack of understanding of this dramatic thing. The other thing that we find morally kind of a bit challenging with a lot of folks is when they sell a channel, the only solution is the channel. Every single thing is a nail when the only thing they have is a hammer. Yeah. Right? We have an entire suite of tools, and we're looking at what are all of the ways that we can put this together to make the most beautiful company that we're looking to build. So it is very fascinating in how we actually drive this forward, and it's so much more complicated, be it a startup straight through to a giant company, $1 billion, right? They're all going to have their unique challenges. You know that Apple spends 7% marketing budget?
7%
of 7%
of
top line revenue.
That's more than most of my clients.
And that is the company that is the best known already. That
clearly has not.
We'll learn about just by looking at the people around them. Hey, cool new phone you got there. Tell me about it. And that person, we got to tell them they are still advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's an indicator of, look, we're not going to advise our $3 million operators to have an omnipresent strategy like Apple would. What we are looking to do is figure out what best we can punch with right out of the gate, out of the start, so that they can get the maximum result for the least amount of dollars. Yeah. Based on the ambition of the business owner, because that's a big deal. If you have the ambition to double your business versus have the ambition to become a $100 million total dominating market leader, those are different strategies. If you're planning on selling in 5 years, that's a different strategy than if you're planning on passing it down to your kids. All of these things have to be taken into consideration, and we don't want to give advice in a vacuum. We need to make sure that it's the right strategy for you, because the strategy will inform the message will inform the media, and the media will be the money that you spend to get the customers to ring your company one way or the other. Right. This has been a really interesting conversation for nerds like us, and I'm looking forward to having more of these. The real question becomes, what the heck are we trying to achieve, and what can we say about what we can do constantly and better than our competition? That message will inform the delivery vehicle, not the other way around. With this approach, we get laser focused on exactly where to spend those marketing dollars, and we don't have to guess anymore which half of your marketing isn't working. right? That's it for this episode of Advertising in America. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for joining us on Advertising in America. We hope you enjoyed the show and captured a nugget of marketing magic. Want to hear more? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. Do you have questions or topics you want us to cover? Join us on our socials at Advertising in America. Want to spend your marketing budget better? Visit us at wizardofads.services to book your free strategy session with Wizard Ryan Shute today. Until next time, keep your ads enchanting and your audience captivated.